it's Eloise here, and today I'm with the wonderful Terryann. Hello, Terryann.
Hi.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Terryann Nikides. I live in Montreal, Canada. And I've been doing, well, all kinds of different things since I was a little kid. So my first intuitive experiences, I was probably 3 or 4 years old, and then started reading tarot about 8 years old to 12 years old. I was reading Krishnamurti, different types of self-inquiry by the time I was 9 years old. So, yeah, I was really interested in this stuff. So, yeah, about 17, I took Silva, which is a version of Mindscape, which Eloise teaches. And then, yeah, life went on, and I just became all kinds of different, I guess, titles I got. Reiki Master and Tarot Master, I suppose you could call it.
Yeah.
And breakthrough instructor under the umbrella of the IBA, and a body talk practitioner. I have my own version of healing too. And yeah, there's just too much to enumerate. But yeah, just to get an idea, I've been doing this for years and years and years.
You've been doing this forever, which is why I wanted to talk to you today. Oh dear. So, you've had an intuitive ability, as some people might call, for like your whole life.
Right.
Do you think that's by accident, or do you think it's by circumstances?
I think it's accident. I really think it's accident. I don't know if we have choice. I can't say 100%, but my biggest assumption I think I would start with is, yeah, whatever we come in with, it's just haphazard. It's almost this chaotic yet organized force. So there's this, if you've heard of the ocean and wave analogy, there's this big ocean of karma, and even your genetic pool, like whatever you get from your parents, it's this chaos, right? This, even sperm and egg, this chaos of a bunch of sperm, and there's the egg, and which egg fell, and the sperm are all going, and then finally one gets there and starts dividing, and who knows what you've got in there, what's going to combine. So I think it's the same thing if you look at, well, maybe we had, if we want to speculate, okay, I come in with this genetic code. And then there is this eighth chakra piece where we come in with past life stuff. So there's this high probability that I was doing something in a past life that was equivalent in some way to what I do now. So, one of the things, much, much earlier, we don't talk much like this anymore, but people used to say, oh, you're so gifted to have this talent to see the future and be able to heal and people. And I went, oh God, I see this so differently. I don't see this as a gift. I see this as I must have done something really, really bad in my past life to come back as a person who has to deal with sick people all day long.
Yeah.
I love my work and I love helping people, but, the majority of the day is with people who've got something wrong. Right? You can attest to that too, Eloise. People are coming in, they're not coming in, wow, I'm great, so let's just do a treatment because I'm so great. I'm feeling good, everything's fine. That does happen where people are trying to go on their, let's say, spiritual path, or they're going on, they'd like to clear things for enlightenment because we're just these infinite beings that need to be that we need to clear up a lot of the conflicts that are going on, which can be fun, but that's not the majority of my experience in my life has been, wow, that was a heavy week. Yeah, that was just one non-good thing after another. And so that was just one of my viewpoints. So yeah, intuitive, that's one thing. Also, I've had so many intense experiences. When I was very intuitive and did personal work in my teens, from very young to my teens and my 20s. it was mostly for myself. I could read for other people, family members, friends. Pretty much everyone asked me for advice or what was going to happen. It was only in 1995, I was 35 years old, where I made the conscious decision that I was going to make this my career path. I never really considered it a possibility as a career path. I was trying to, I just kept doing this on my own, and then I said, okay, let me see if this would be viable. So when I started reading tarot for people, the first year was incredibly painful. Something very strange happened. I could no longer see people's skin. And it was just the internal body. The skin was completely gone. And this went on for months and months and months. It was torture. I had to live privately. I couldn't hang around with people. And one day it was driving me so crazy because I had to go make some money. So I was, reading tarot in a public place. And it was the middle of winter, and here, we have big snowstorms, and I was wrapped up, my eyes just little tiny slits, looking through the scarf that I was wearing. And I thought I was going to lose it. I really thought I was going to lose it. I just, one guy was going by and I was like, oh my God, he's going to have a heart attack. And then another person was filled with cancer, and I just wanted to start screaming. So I saw this staircase, and I was about to step up on the staircase, and I'm going up to stand there and start telling people, and in that moment, I had the greatest revelation. I went, everyone's going to think you're crazy, and they're going to put you away. And I went, oh, that's like Cassandra, right? In Greece, the fall of Troy. And I just went, well, what have I thought my intuition was about all of these years? Just because I can intuit the future, my assumption was that I was supposed to tell people what was going to happen to prevent it. And that's when I realized, oh, that's not my job. That has nothing. I needed to learn that just because you can see an outcome, it's just a possible outcome, first of all. It's not a necessary outcome. Didn't mean that if I told this guy he was going to have a heart attack, that would change anything. He may still not change his lifestyle, still not change his diet, still not change. In this particular man's case, this is all intuitive, by the way. I never spoke to him, but I can still see him to this day, wearing this beautiful suit. So I knew he was an overworking, high-achieving male, approximately 42 to 48 years old. Looked younger than he was, because those kinds of type A guys do often look much younger. But internally there's something going on. And I just thought, wow, this is the biggest lesson I could have ever learned and understood, when, just looking at people and going, no, that's not my job. That's not even that's what I thought the reason was. The idea that I had to tell people. No, it's not at all. It was such a deep sense of needing to control people's outcome. Yeah. Why would you? I knew at 11 that someone asked me whether I should marry, whether she should marry someone. I said, well, no, you're going to get divorced. And of course that all came to pass. She did get divorced. But in the interim, there's a whole life.
Yeah.
Experiences.
And they had fun and things happened.
Sure. Yeah. Why would you take that away? And the outcome of getting divorced, maybe that was the thing that she needed to look at. Maybe she didn't do everything she needed to do not to get divorced. So it's kind of like my very immature child's mind, right? Till I was 35 years old, I was very, very black and white, make sure everything happens with a good outcome. Right? That's so immature.
Yeah.
It's so naive. It is so filled with the lack of understanding, right? Because we do suffer as human beings. I mean, it's inevitable that we're going to suffer. We have the knowledge that our lives are limited. we're going to die. We have the knowledge that highly possible we can get sick. We can't just do whatever we want. If we injure the body when we're young, we feel, okay, I can injure my body, I'm going to repair. But it doesn't take too long to figure out, when part of your life goes by 35, 40, 45 years old, you might be one of the lucky ones with super genes, but oftentimes things start breaking down.
Yeah.
And you start to realize, oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do everything that I did. I can't even work the hours and the intensity. I mean, in my 20s, I could work 18 hours a day, go out dancing at night, get up in the morning, go jogging and play tennis, then go back to work and sleep a couple of hours, right? And then, as you get to 40, you might work. I was working intensely, but now approaching 60, not the same thing at all.
Yeah.
There's no way. If I have an 18-hour day, which happens, there's no way I can do that the next day. There's just no way that's going to happen.
Yeah.
So everything's a lot more tempered, right? Everything's a little bit more organized. So our understanding that we will suffer is part of the process, and it is not about overcoming suffering. Right?
Yep.
So no matter what we do, whether we're intuitive or not, it's not about overcoming suffering. It's being able to deal with the suffering that does come.
Yeah.
Because it will. If you're one of the lucky ones and you never have any form of suffering in your life, which doesn't make any sense, someone's going to die. You're going to die. There's a point where you have an illness. Somebody you love could have an illness. I mean, suffering does hit us.
Yeah. You can't avoid conflict.
You can't avoid conflict. You can't avoid, that deep, painful suffering. Yeah, you just can't avoid it. Even if And so that was my biggest experience of intuition, was learning, no, we're going to suffer, but in that suffering is interspersed this beautiful life as well. And the most difficult thing for me to look at as an intuitive is someone who experiences the suffering and the conflict, but is victimized by it, and also is kind of in a hopeless or helpless place.
Yeah.
Right? I'm helpless to do anything about it, as though their situation is original. Right?
Yes.
You can have varying degrees of suffering. It is true. But it's really, with all the horror stories I'm sure you've heard, Eloise, and I've heard throughout, our thousands of hours of listening to people, it's very hard to say who's had it the worst.
Yeah.
You can't.
You think you hear the worst, and then someone else comes in, and you're like, okay.
And that's even worse, right? But a lot of people think they do have it the worst, and that their situation is the worst, and they have no idea. Just go to your next door neighbor's house, and you may see horrors you've never even experienced.
Yeah.
The horrors are enormous. They're huge, and yet, despite the horrors that we go through, we need to, still take responsibility, I guess would be take responsibility for the experience, despite how horrible it is, and be able to continue living. It's really the hardest thing for me is when someone cannot do that. Yeah. And they're left victimized. I think that's probably the most painful, because someone can have, parents who beat them, get cancer, lose a part of their body, and still, continue working and having a relationship with their kids. And then there's the other person who gets the same events, similar events, and yet they come out the other end, and my life is horrible. I can't do anything about it, and I want some kind of magical wish. So intuition is not magic.
No.
I guess that's one of the biggest things that I understood. It's not a magical thing. I think we all have it. Well, I'm certain we all have it to varying degrees. We all have that gut sense of what's going on. Some of us have a fainter picture, right?
Mm.
Or maybe not as often, but especially for people like us who pay attention to that part. I don't think we become stronger intuitives, but I do think that we pay more attention to what intuition is telling us. I think whatever my intuition is, I don't think I can make it more. I can develop it. I don't think that's possible.
No.
But I do think we can focus on those intuitive bits, right? So it's not like being an artist where you keep practicing and you're going to get better at it. I don't think that that's possible, but I do think we focus on those bits. So I spent a lot of time focusing on what my intuition tells me. Yeah, sometimes to the detriment of my intellect. Right, so I spend a lot of time trying to balance that out to make sure. Okay, you got this intuition, but you better do some research.
Balance. Right? Yeah.
And then there are often things like this new organ that was found under the skin. It's like, oh right, that's new. Okay, no, I knew that was there.
Yeah.
Right, so you were always working in it. There was always this liquid under the skin and constant inflammation under there, and playing with it and just thinking, well, I would just think, well, I'm just kind of stupid. I don't know the name of it. And then Facebook and you go, oh, nobody knew the name of it. Okay,
right,
that's fine. Okay, it's not just me, right? So we are constantly researching to have the intellect support the intuition as well, so the two of them work together.
Yeah, you need both of them together. So what does the intuition give us?
What do you mean give us?
So by accessing our intuition, is there any advantage?
Well, just as much as there's a disadvantage, right? So, any sense that you have is going to give you some form of advantage, right? So, but the disadvantage is also just as clear, right? It's the two of them would have to balance each other out. But if we're going to look at some of the advantages, well, I just have a hard time to find it. It gave me a job.
It gave you a job.
It's even when you're intuitive, it's not as easy to be intuitive. You have more filters when it comes to yourself, so you can't say that's an advantage. People will tell you can read for yourself. You can, but it's much harder, and it's going to be very filtered. I find people are very mildly successful at themselves. And then, of course, your family members, right? If you have a new friend, it's so easy to be intuitive for that new friend. As you become more and more friendly, you lose your intuitive edge with them, because you start filtering your caring and
loving
stuff. All this very tainted stuff. So I'm trying to imagine what it would be like not to intuit, and all I could see if I wasn't intuiting as much, I think it would be much less stressful to my nervous system, because there's there's a privacy, I suppose. A spy it would be really advantageous. So, but I can't see that it. Do you have any sense?
Well, I'm just thinking in the extremes, in that you're one of the most intuitive people I've ever met. So, for an average person on the street who doesn't listen to their intuition, is there an advantage to them not opening that door, but just being present to it?
Well, I would want to know why they would want to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be, why would you want to be more intuitive than you already are.
Yeah.
It's one thing to understand what your intuition is communicating to you, but to say, I'm going to become more intuitive, I don't think you can, first of all. I don't think that's possible. But even the desire to do that, because I used to, someone asked me to put a course on once to develop intuition. I said, it makes no sense to me to develop intuition. I don't understand what you're talking about. I said, well, a lot of people want to do this. And I said, all right, let's throw a course together just because you want it. And I'll see what comes out of it. And every time someone called, I would say, okay, but I'm going to test you first to see whether I want to accept you as a student, because I knew what I was going to do was not going to be about developing intuition. It was to understand that you can't develop your intuition, but at least get an understanding of how it impacts you.
Yeah.
So that I understand, that I would want to understand my intuition and to have tools to take care of myself especially when there's too much input.
Yeah, boundaries.
Right? So if there's a lot of input around me, if I have a very active, let's say, period of time where there are a lot of people, before I would just push right through it, gain a lot of weight and do all of that. So instead of doing that, it's, learn to take care of yourself. You've had a period with a lot of people, now you need a period all by yourself. This took years to understand. I'm even talking about being overstimulated by colors, by too many objects in your environment. Noises from people, transformers. I live in a neighborhood with too many transformers. So I've got a lot of orgonite around the house, but I know it's very disturbing to me. I know when immediately when you go into the country how different you feel. So that's usually what I taught people, was how to better care for themselves when they were extremely intuitive, or to care for themselves when they did receive an intuition. But somebody who was kind of, I need to develop it and make it something, there's a complete, to me, sort of disconnect of what intuition is. And it's like saying, okay, my eyesight is 20/20, now I'm going to develop it to be X-ray vision. Right? It's kind of the same thing. It's not that you can't exercise your eyes or look away from your computer screen, but it's taking care of your eyes, taking care of your hearing, taking care of your taste buds, taking care of your sense of touch and those subtle senses, right? Because we've got subtle vision and all of that's part and parcel of what goes on intuitively, right? When we're picking up information from everyone. So it's kind of a weird thing that somebody would want to develop it. Though I did, like I said, named the course Developing Your Intuition, and then when they started working in the class, they went, oh, I see what we're doing here. They learned a lot about how intuition works within them, so they could actually, notice how it's impacting them. Because I find it interesting, people who do want to develop their intuition tend to be people who are already intuitive, but it's not working well for them. And so it's so helpful to have a way of dealing with oneself. Then there's also a group of people who come in and think it's some kind of magical ability that they're going to get and be able to read people's minds. I mean, if you for one moment really understood, one did, not you personally, if one understood what it would be like to read people's minds, you would not be able to magically connect to one mind and read that mind. If you were reading people's minds, you're reading everybody's minds. And you would just be like this, because all you would hear is blah, 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 blah. Which, I don't know if you experience it, but I do. I experience all this noise, and I sometimes run away. I run out of the room because I can't listen to any more of the, it's not quite like the movies, but it often is where I'm exhausted from hearing everyone's feelings and what they're really saying behind their words.
Yeah.
It is pretty much torture. So when you meet, most people who are very intuitive, they're very private people, and they hide out a lot, and they go and live in mountainous areas, or they're like me, not very social. When I'm social, I give my all and I'm there,
Yeah.
but I need a lot of time where I'm on my own.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. It's important.
yeah, so that's, I don't know if it's, I guess I'm not really answering your question. I don't know if there would be an advantage, but there is an
Yeah.
advantage to taking care of it.
So why is it
Well, taking care of
there?
itself, yeah.
So why is
Yeah.
the intuition there?
Why is it there?
Just for fun?
I don't know what the intention of, just like, why the heck are we here?
Yeah, I know.
It's
just like one of those endless
you
questions.
could make a lot of explanations why we have 5 fingers, etc., and its development. I think everything is possible. All things are possible.
Yeah.
So that's one of the weird things that's possible, that we can. And if you looked at it another way, if you're a hunter and you need to sense your environment and sense danger, you need that subtle sense to, if you go back in time where you were picking up the sounds of possible hunters trying to hunt you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
We needed high sensitivity to know. This is more in nature, right? Now that we're city folk, I don't think it's so effective. But as knowing when honey is ready to go to a beehive, knowing when it would be the right time to pick a flower.
Yeah.
Right? Like Bach did, he went in and intuited which flowers are giving you what remedies. The subtle sense of knowing what's poisonous.
Yeah.
If we're just kind of brutish, just taking everything in. But I think our subtle sense and that intuition tells us, yeah, something's not quite right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, or something is right. When you see people who are looking at the planet Earth and they're in tragedy over the planet Earth, well, it's going to depend on whose intuition is the strongest. But when I touch planet Earth, she's like, no worries, mate.
Yeah.
I can knock you guys off.
Yeah. You're just like little ants. I can just shrug my shoulders and you'll go. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no problem. So I see her as super powerful.
Yeah.
And I don't see all these problems. Not that we should run around, throwing water in the ocean, but intuitively throwing garbage in the ocean and plastics. Yeah. But intuitively, you can see people focusing on that as saying, "Look at how terrible." I'm like, well, why are you focusing on that? Why aren't you focusing on all the people who are developing techniques, right?
Yeah.
I love this. There's quite a few companies out there. I don't know all their names, but one of them that I know their name is Ocean 40.
Yeah.
Right? And Ocean 40 takes a pound of, you give them $20 US. They send you a little bracelet, really cute. And it takes 1 pound of garbage out of the ocean. Well, why aren't we, why is Facebook and social media covered with these guys? It's like, well, now I'm doing something. And they're not the only ones.
Yeah, there's loads of people doing stuff. Yeah.
Oh, so many things, and yet we're so negative.
Yeah.
Right? So somehow
it's a human trait just to look at the disaster sometimes.
To look at the disaster, to panic, and to kind of say, well, look how virtuous I am. Yeah. I'm telling you what's wrong. And I'm doing something about it. I'm screaming about it. It's like, no. That's not very helpful. Everyone looks out the window and sees garbage. You're making garbage. So just start promoting companies and people who are doing great things. university. They have this little sort of bag thing that collects garbage. There's another group of guys that are creating new plastic products. You know, so the people are coming up with new inventions, and they're people who are cleaning things up.
Yeah.
So you can tell that people are not intuitive. That's just not when they're focusing on this negative. You know that they're just in a very deep, dark place.
Yeah.
Here, right?
Yeah.
Instead of in, well, where am I going to enlighten, right?
Yes.
So there's there's kind of a darkness. Yeah. So what were you going to say?
There's a difference in quality.
There's a difference in quality of
the light, when the intuition's there and when it's not.
Wow, I never thought of it that way. I just kind of think that we all pick up something.
Yeah.
It's so much easier. I think it's my speculation that because, as I said earlier, we all know we're going to die.
Yeah.
There is suffering, and right away we're like magnets to anything that is disastrous.
Yeah.
Right? So let's say that the most basest instinct in us will go for what is the most awful. And this is the levels of anxiety in our bodies, and everything's so horrible and I can't deal with it, right? It is a huge pressure. Each individual can't deal with it. So my solution is now it's everybody else's fault and you better get it together, which is just so, you've got a real schism between what we're intuiting as a people that's coming from this very terrible, fearful place, and our intellect being able to figure out some of the solutions. I mean, we could have Facebook covered with wonderful, wonderful ways of dealing with the world. There's a humanprogress.org.
Okay.
This is a site where you can see exactly what the Western world and technology is doing for people daily. I forget the number, but it's hundreds of thousands of people are given electricity a day, so they're lifted out of poverty.
Yeah.
But we talk about people not having food, but we don't talk about how much we've solved it.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, there again is magical thinking. It's like, now we're going to solve the whole planet right now. Well, wait a minute. That's like when I was a kid and I'd go to another country. And in that country, well, let's go to Greece in the 60s. I'd go to Greece in the 60s, and I'd watch, because I didn't speak Greek as a child, all these, American kids coming in and going, oh, it's so disgusting. And I go, well, how dare you come to another country? I'm Canadian, but how can you come to another country and start dictating to that country how it should live? Yeah. So years go by, now there's McDonald's in Greece, and everybody goes, oh, it's such a shame there's McDonald's. I'm like, well, you see, we're just a weird bunch of people, aren't we, right? It's like, oh, I want to have this. You guys are prehistoric. You don't have indoor toilets. Your toilets are dirt holes out in the back. What do you mean I'm going to go to the bathroom in a field?
Yeah.
Yeah. How come your beach have your mountain and you get to the bathroom up there? That's what you do. You have to figure it out. Where's the water? Well, it's in the well. You have to pull the water out of the well. And, everyone's like, no, we've got to develop these countries. Well, it's the same thing going and saying we're just going to, do whatever we want to different people. Well, no, they may not want you to do
want it.
But they might want electricity. They might want help with their food, but the rest of it is really kind of none of your business, right? It's very interesting what we do. So I think a lot of what we pick up sensorially, I'd say the majority of people, is because fear is so. It's our nature. It's amazing to get out of bed in the morning, as Carl Jung said. So we get out of bed. You could. It's so easy. An airplane could fall and crush me right now. I mean, it's not so difficult to be gone. It's so easy. It's amazing that,
It's amazing we stay alive for as long as we do.
It is really, we're not very, well, we don't live much in gratitude, do we?
No, and we should.
It's like, yeah, we don't have the gratitude of how, here I am standing here, it's cold out,
Yeah.
there's light, I've got,
It's lights.
flowers
We've got
behind me,
clean water.
clean water, and that it functions, because
Yeah. And we get to chat to each other on the internet.
and we're talking over across the pond.
Yeah. It's amazing.
So the grid could go down, and within days there would be no food, we'd be frozen. If that just went, we don't even realize how many people are out there.
Yeah.
Keeping this going.
Yeah.
Working all day long to keep these things going, to keep our electrics going, to keep our internet going.
Yeah.
We don't realize it, yet we fall. So, and you'd think we were a bit educated, but we're not, right? So, it's
the magic people make it happen. Yeah.
Oh, it is, and it's not, and it's, anybody would think it is magic, but there's hardworking people who go to work every single day to make sure that we're in this position that we're in now. And yet, I like looking at Facebook because it's fascinating. That we are constantly, and you see the same things come up all the time, right? The same wail, this, and just how it's exaggerated, right? This is, and my sense is that's the fear that we have every day, and oh wow, look, I've got something to be fearful about. In 1992.
Yeah.
I think it's between 88 and 92. There was a period there where, I forget which country in Africa, there was it was a hell going on. They were killing kids.
Yeah.
So, my best friend at the time, kept calling me up every day and crying, just bawling her eyes out that these kids were dying. And I said, I know it's horrible, sweetheart, but we've got to start with ourselves.
Yeah.
You've got to start with yourself to change the world. Start with yourself. You crying is not helping these kids. You could get up and go there. And she's like, oh, no, I wouldn't do that. I'm building my house. We're on our second car. And I'm like, well, you're making choices. You're making choices. So you want 2 homes. You want 2 cars. You want all these things for yourself, which is fine. Yeah. You can do that. But crying about them is not effective. Make some changes internally so you could change the world. Now, I've had this opinion or viewpoint that we change ourselves, we change everything.
Yeah.
Since I was a very, very young child. I don't even know how I got this understanding. And over the years, a lot of people just kind of poo-pooed me. It's like, no, the government's got to do things. I'm like, no, the government doesn't need to do anything for us, right? And now, as I'm older, I went, how did it go so awry that people are not seeing that it's your own personal work that you have to do that changes the vibration. So, that would be probably the biggest advantage if you really were able to deal with your intuition.
Yeah. Yes, to give you that understanding of how to work on yourself.
Yeah, what's really going on in the world? I'm so sorry.
Oh yeah, I know you need to go in a minute.
I'm sorry. I'm just gonna text him to know that I'll be there in a minute. sorry.
That's okay. Sorry.
So yeah, there's something. So you could get beyond just reading your fears.
Yeah.
And then. Sorry, I need a few more minutes. I'm just going to.
Don't worry, just do it.
So, to not just be reacting from this fearful place.
Yeah, to be reacting from somewhere else. Yeah.
Because it's visceral.
Yeah.
And we don't know what we're afraid of. Right? I mean, it's clear that we're going to die, we're going to suffer. I mean, that's a big thing to be dealing with every day. So yes, of course we're going to have fear, and we're going to find all the ways to make our lives better, right? As Jordan Peterson says, you can make it worse so easily.
Yeah.
What are you doing with your life? At least, it's so easy to make the choice that makes your life worse. So you get to choose, make it better or make it worse.
Yeah.
If you make it worse for yourself, you're making it worse for everybody around you. So, so at least start there. And we could go on forever on this topic.
Yeah, I know we could.
So it's so interesting to really, feel your own existential fear, right?
Yeah.
Fear just by virtue of being alive, possibility of suffering, the possibility of death. And when we start sensing anything negative around us, it feeds on us. That's how the news works, doesn't it?
Yep.
Well, I don't know whether the news is planning any of this or the media is, but through trial and error, it's so obvious. Well, here are how my ratings are going to go up. Let me put another attack. Let me say how polluted the world is. Let me, I'll just keep reporting on these tiny subjects without the whole gamut of positive stuff that's going on. I'm not going to talk, right? There's no ratings in the positive, right? Yeah. So it's very. So
it is very interesting.
Through this whole discussion, and I thank you. There is the biggest positive thing of really getting your intuition to be clear, and see. No, there's so much good out there.
Yeah.
Tune into it. Get your intuition to pick up, where do I need to go? Yeah. And intuitively go, well, wait a minute, this person is just making things worse. And they're pointing out a very tiny aspect of what's going on in the world, even though you see it everywhere. It's on the news, it's in newspapers, it's your friends are talking about it. That doesn't matter. It's, well, wait a minute, what's really going on? Or am I just focusing on this and so is everyone else when there's this great stuff going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, just go check out www.humanprogress.org.
Yeah, I'll link it somewhere. Yeah, cool.
And when you check it out, you start seeing, wow, really, this is what we're doing?
That's so cool.
We forget the incredible people.
There's so much incredible stuff going on.
And unbelievable. Just in our work, we have John Veltheim and every one of us who does this work every day. Incredible work. People are figuring out how to get the garbage out of the oceans. People figuring out how to make bags that are biodegradable. There's even soap products. Yes. I've known about this for 23 years. The bacterial soap products that you can go in and clean industrial areas, and the bacteria eats it up, and then the bacteria dies. So cool, right?
Yeah.
So many amazing things. Anyway, there you go.
Thank you for being so amazing and spending some time with me and us.
It's always a pleasure, Eloise. Aww. I love you, but I got to leave you.
Yeah, I know you've got to go. So, lots of love. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.
Talk again soon.
Thank you. Bye.